Hi guys, I'm Bonita. If you haven't been to my video channel before, I'm going to be talking to dancers everywhere, but I have a special request from some of my friends in Korea that have asked me to do some encouragement for dancers, particularly in the area of practicing and maybe being discouraged by having so much instruction and it coming at them so fast from their teachers that sometimes they don't know what to do with it. You can look at my bio and my resume on my website at ballroomdancecincinnati.com. So although I do have a classical background and I have a heavy background of competition in 4 different styles, I also have an upbringing from a very early age in assisting my ballet teacher and in the Arthur Murray studios, where there's a lot of emphasis on teaching new people and teaching people from scratch, adults, so not just teaching young people or teaching children or serious competitors, but we work there with people from all walks of life and every age. And so if you're just starting now and you're 50, 60, 70, 80, or if you're much younger and lucky enough to start dancing early, all I can say is I'm glad you started. So we'll talk just a little bit about learning and the learning process, and a little bit about practicing and how to schedule your practice so that you get the most out of it. This is such a big topic, so I don't think I can cover nearly everything on this video, and everybody has different problems. So one of the things I want to say is that when I was very new in the Arthur Murray business, Bill Volpe was our marketing director, and he had been around for a long time then when I was still a teenager. 2 things I remember that he said in a talk. There was a song apparently that went with the Arthur Murray television show, and they would sing this song, "Arthur Murray taught me dancing in a hurry." And then he would sing that and say, "This is the biggest lie ever told. So you're not going to learn to dance in a hurry." Now we can, if we're well-trained teachers and we understand how to make things simple, we can provide something complex in a simple way, and we can hopefully start people out on their first couple lessons, making it easy for them by teaching them a basic pattern and physically helping them through it and not adding too much instruction. That's one of the other things I learned very early on. The fault of new teachers is generally that we teach too much. You see that the student appears to be doing it and assume that they're ready for the next thing. And that's the other thing that Bill said that I always have remembered. He said, let them enjoy that box step for a while. Let them enjoy the feeling of dancing. And so it's so important as teachers and as coaches that we don't overwhelm our students, and that we do give you a chance to feel the dancing, enjoy the dancing, and feel the joy which is your motivation to continue. And that would be true of any skill that you're learning. You have to have things in a bite-sized approach so that you can enjoy what you're doing and not be constantly overwhelmed with getting better. Well, I hope I'm not going to have any more interference with my earring and my microphone. I've moved the mic, so hopefully this will go a little bit better. When I was the regional dance chairman for Arthur Murray's, my job there, in addition to my own studio, was to train all the teachers in the region. And it's not just dance training, but training in teaching and how to take people through the stages. This is one very important part, not only for us as teachers, but if we coach and travel, to see what a person needs at that particular time and what would help them the most. Because sometimes we can get into things that are just too wild and wonderful and maybe get them confused, or it's something that they can't feel at the moment that we're there, or it's really not the proper step for them to take. So that's something for the teaching. And if you're a student, you don't really know what you're ready for and what the next step should be. So I'll just give you a little guidance, because in the end, you are your own advocate. Hopefully you have found the right teacher for you, and hopefully your temperaments work together and your teacher is willing to listen to you. And if you are frustrated, hopefully you can work that out. Sometimes we have to back off. We find someone's doing really well, we push them. a little bit harder, and you can reach a point where you're very frustrated. And what we need to do at that point maybe is back up and change our approach a little bit. Maybe we need to spend more time dancing. There's a lot of this particular style of dancing, any ballroom or Latin dancing, anything we do as a couple, a lot of the feel will be transferred through the bodies dancing together. So if you're doing a one-on-one lesson with your teacher, the feel is very important to transmit to our students. And even if you're a couple and you're taking lessons as a couple, we need to dance with the man, we need to dance with the lady, so that you can feel what you want to do. In the end, you need to be able to tell your teacher if you're frustrated, as I said, or if you think you want to try something more difficult. And I have very good students that way that will usually tell me, do you want to go down this road? This is a dangerous topic right now, but maybe it will help you. Well, yeah, let's do it. Or, you know, I'm full right now. Can we just review what we did today? Can we just dance this a little bit? Or can we just dance this segment a few times? So I'll be talking mostly with you as a dancer for yourself today, and you taking charge of your own practice. Many people waste a lot of their practice time. If it's a couple, I can say arguing is a waste of time. You may need to discuss something. You may need to go down your list of what you think you remember from the lesson. But one thing you must remember, if your partner tells you something that they feel, they actually do feel that, just as you do. You affect each other more than you can tell how you feel yourself. So a type of dancing where we really are affected by the other person. So hopefully if you have a partnership, you're practicing, that you have that good communication where you're not feeling attacked by the other person or put down by the other person, but you can discuss it. And then if you can't make headway on what you're doing, then just move away from it and start to make a list to take to your teacher. If you don't have a partner, it's no reason to not practice. Do your practice on your own. And want to look at practice in a couple different ways. You must do rounds. Now when I say rounds, it would simply be if you're not doing competition, or maybe you're doing a showcase, or you're just learning a particular combination of figures in your dancing. You need to be able to go from one figure to the next, one group to the next, and last through however long that dance would last. So there needs to be a balance of going through, even though things don't feel very good, just doing that, and then a balance of working on the details. So you can plan that however you like with yourself or with your partner. Let's say you have only an hour to practice, and maybe you have another hour later in the week. Okay, I'm going to do a round. If you're doing competition, you have 5 dance or 4 dance events. If you have a partner, you do it with your partner, or you do it on your own. You do a round. Okay, maybe you don't feel good about that. If you're the type of person that really likes to get into the details, you can become a slave to that. And that type of person can do it very slowly and do it individually, but they have trouble getting through the whole thing. And usually they don't have the stamina then to complete the whole routine. Or I've had students and I've had couples that just go to the studio, put the shoes on, go through everything, and they're done. Well, I don't know what else to do. But you haven't worked on any of your details. You haven't worked on what your last lesson was. And you need a certain amount of practice in between each lesson to get the most out of that lesson. So let's say you start with a round, and then maybe you go to the trouble spots and work on those trouble spots. Or you have a list from your lesson of what you did, and you work on those things slowly, and maybe you end your practice with another round. And then let's say you're doing 2 styles, and your second practice that week, you can do the same with your other style. Now there's other things we need to look at that you would do outside of the studio. Almost everyone, unless they've been training as a dancer and they're already an athlete, will have particular muscle groups that need to be more activated, need to be maybe stronger, or need to be trained. You may have some posture problems. You may have a forward head posture, or a rounded shoulder line, or maybe a big arch in the back. There can be all kinds of things that are just habitual postural problems. And when you're in the studio, you have a long list. You have the music, You have your footwork, you have your timing, your partnering, your posture, many, 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 many things. When the list is too long, you will be frustrated. So spend some time at home working on whatever your postural deficit is, or if your legs are weak, if your feet are weak, if your feet are always turned in and you're trying to become a good Latin dancer, you're going to have to work on turning out. You have to work on lengthening through the back, pressing out the curves in the spine, maybe getting more length in your neck, finding your lats. All these things are things that you can do outside of the studio to strengthen and improve them, so that when you're in the studio, your list is not as long. The odds of you remembering to engage your lats, if you haven't been training them, are not very good, because you'll be starting the dance and then you'll realize your head's in the wrong place. Well, I got behind the music, now I've lost my balance. So many things. So just for today, we'll talk about that. Rounds are important, details are important, physical conditioning, communication, because you are going to have those roadblocks. We also all have what we call a learning curve. So it's not a straight line from start to up. We don't just go improve. There many times we level off, reaching those plateaus where we at least feel that we're not making any progress. Sometimes that's true. There are times that you have a block, and maybe you need to change something there. Maybe you need to approach your practice with more physicality, or maybe you're the other way and you need to approach it with more intellect. Over the years, I've found that people tend to fall into a natural slot. The ones who just go through, do it, that's it, and those who are very detail-oriented. You've got to do both of those things, because if you just go through, you're never going to get any better, and if you just do the details, you're never going to be able to access them when you dance the whole program. My husband is an amateur dancer, and he's quite good, and we were having a coaching with my coach at one point, and I think we were working on the open impetus turn, and he finally said, you know, that's really, really good, and I don't think I could do it any better than you, but I think I could do it more often than you. If we start here and we go through the entire program, by the time I get to the fourth one, I can probably do it more consistently. And that's an important thing to realize. You can do it really, really well, but you need the consistency. And you get the consistency by doing the details and then continuing your program, and hopefully you have enough mental focus, physical condition, and awareness that you can repeat it. Because we see this all the time. We start off good, maybe the first line looks good, and then we start to lose it. Or we'll see by the time couples get into the jive that they're completely exhausted. They've used too much energy, they haven't paced themselves, or they haven't been doing rounds and they're not really prepared. So I know I haven't talked about all the different approaches to practice, but make sure you cover the bases, that you identify yourself as which type of person that you are, because you will have the weakness in the other direction. If you need to do more rounds, or if you need to force yourself to go through even when it doesn't feel good, or if you need to be a little bit more detail-oriented. And be very careful when you get frustrated. Depending on the type of person you are, you'll beat yourself up, or maybe you'll beat up your partner, or maybe you get mad at your teacher. And those things are all non-productive, but we do them too. I knew when I first crossed over into belly dancing and I was trying to learn how to play the finger cymbals, the zills, and I would be making some headway, and then I would try to dance while I was doing it. It was so frustrating. So I think it's important, those of us who teach, and teach a skill like dancing, that we always do something that pushes us to learn something we haven't done before, so we can remember just how awkward our students feel. So we'll talk a little bit more about more detailed planning of practice, but I just want to put this out as a general encouragement for you to understand, especially those of you that are extremely smart people and who find learning intellectually very easy and remember things. And we find a lot of engineers and very smart people are attracted to ballroom dancing. And sometimes they don't really realize that the physical skill that you have to acquire is different than how fast your brain can work for maybe your profession. And I've had students tell me too that they could speak in front of 2,000 doctors and not be nervous at all. But they'll get up in front of 100 people to dance and they're absolutely terrified in a completely different world. And now we're talking about body confidence. Body confidence is very, very different. Although it helps you, if you have body confidence from learning to dance and present yourself, you will speak better when you get up in front of a crowd. But it's a different, let's say a whole experience, bodily experience, than those who are used to using the mind, learning things very quickly, understanding them quickly. And people like that many times can understand concepts quickly. They can't get the body to respond. And then they get very, very frustrated. So be patient with yourself, but just keep on going. The main thing is going to be, of course, determination and discipline and regular practice, as well as a teacher or coach that you see regularly who can be honest with you but also sensitive to where you need to go at the time. So please be encouraged, no matter where you are in your dancing or how old you are when you start or how awkward you feel. If you keep at it and you apply these principles, then you will succeed.